Hey guys, and welcome back. If this is the first video that you are watching in this series, these are the 7 poems from the AQA Power and Conflict anthology that I'm going to choose to learn quotes from so that I can answer any question that comes up. This is exposure. I have done London, The Prelude, and Just Done Charge of the Light Brigade. This is the next conflict poem, but... and here is why exposure makes my top 7 list. It's also a power poem. So it's the first one in my list of 7 that does both of the jobs for me. It does power of nature and it does conflict too. So that makes it an even stronger choice. So this is probably one, maybe rather than just choosing the normal 2 language, 2 structure and 2 form techniques, maybe this is one that I maybe choose 3 language, 3 structure and 3 form. But it's up to you. 2 is enough. As always, I'm going to start with form. By form, you probably know by now, if you've watched the other videos, that these are poetic techniques. They are unique to poetry. So things like rhyme, rhythm, stanza length, volta, anaphora, caesura, enjambment. You're probably getting bored of me saying all of this. Okay. First thing then with form, which is kind of interesting, is look at the middle 2 lines of each stanza. They are what we call half rhymes. And they're uncomfortable, meaning they're not clean, sharp rhymes like street and meet that we had in London. This is different. Silent, salient, doesn't quite fit. Brambles, rumbles. There is some rhyme, but it's not clean. And that creates this really eerie sense. It's sort of like, it's strange and odd and uncomfortable. And of course, that is what the soldiers are going through. This is obviously a poem about soldiers in World War I in the trenches getting absolutely pounded by weather. Of course, power of nature. It's people freezing to death and all of that kind of stuff. So that's my first form technique. There is some caesura in it. So deep into grassier ditches, full stop. Caesura. In the final stanza, 2 caesuras. Shriveling many hands, full stop. Pause over half-known faces, full stop. So what does the caesura do here? Well, there isn't any iambic pentameter that we can talk about, the breaking of a strong, powerful rhythm. But there is a pause. And that pause can be analysed as a moment of reflection, to pause on the imagery of shriveling many hands, to pause over half-known faces, all their eyes are ice, giving us that pause to kind of stop and reflect on the torture that these soldiers are going through. So I think caesura is actually worth analysing here. If it is breaking any flow of the rhythm, if you want to analyse the breaking of something, you can link it into the breaking of their spirits as they're there suffering, freezing to death. This is a slightly weirdly laid out poem in that, first of all, AQA have done a really terrible job of putting these like really small, you see how this becomes a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line stanza, but it isn't. If you look at the original, that's not how it's written. So if that's how it's written as well in your anthology book, that is just down to AQA. They are actually 4 line stanzas, which we would call a quatrain, but with 1 additional line. And if you notice, that line, which you can see in blue at the bottom of each stanza, is kind of separated in a way from the stanza. It kind of is indented into the middle of the stanza, which kind of makes it feel a bit disconnected. Maybe like the soldiers are kind of feeling disconnected from their souls and spirits because they're being sort of like battered. Their spirits are being broken, maybe. I don't know. Remember, poetry, it's all open to interpretation, which I think is why it's so good. So it's quite an odd poem in terms of form, in terms of stanza length. I probably wouldn't analyse stanza length. I'm going to stick with my half rhymes and my caesuras. It's actually not a great poem for form, which is okay. As long as we get 2, we're happy. So while we're on it, let's talk about that structure. So have a look at these phrases that are at the end of each stanza. But nothing happens, stanza 1. What are we doing here? This is a great one. This is one of my quotes that I would learn. Why? Because you can talk about the rhetorical question. This is the soldiers questioning their own existence. Like, what are we doing here in this war? Which is, of course, contextually, I'm not going to go through context, but contextually what they were sort of experiencing. You know, they signed up through propaganda to fight in this war that they thought would be over, you know, within a year. They thought it'd be over by Christmas, the first Christmas that they had, and they ended up having a further 3 or 4. Now we've got repetition, but nothing happens. And actually, look how often that's repeated. Stanza 1, stanza 3, stanza 4, and then again it ends, but nothing happens. So structurally, I would look at the repetition of but nothing happens, because that is kind of the core of the poem, which is they're not really at war with the enemy. Nothing happens. Really, what are they at war with? Nature. The conflict in this poem is not between Allies and Germans or whatever, you know, it's about the war with nature. So you've got a nice rhetorical question and you've got repetition of but nothing happens. That is my structure done. I don't need to go fishing for any real other structural techniques. Those are absolutely brilliant to analyze. Moving on then, finally, to language. There is so much choice in this poem for language. Personification is very important in this poem. There is so much of it. Now, why do I think that's relevant when talking about the power of nature? Well, by bringing nature to life, by giving it power, by giving it a sense that it is living, it gives it a sense of more power, that they are actually being attacked by something like physical, something that has the capability to move and attack them. So the first line is a winner, absolutely. Merciless iced east winds that knive us. We're getting 2 techniques for the price of 1 quote for language: sibilance and personification, knife us. So the sibilance, the repetition of the S sound, which I'm going to link to the sound of the wind that's being described in the first couple of stanzas. We can see that again with "we hear the mad gusts." Nice personification, adjective: mad, crazy, scary, dangerous. And we hear sensory imagery. If you really wanted to get plenty of techniques out of that quote, you can. So sibilance, sound of the wind; personification, violence of the weather. You've got more violence down here as well. Dawn massing in the east, her melancholy army. Of course, here the melancholy army is the clouds which are raining down this like cold rain and snow. It attacks once more in ranks on shivering ranks of grey. So, you know, all of this personification is about creating this sense that nature is attacking us, that nature is powerful and it's dangerous. For conflict, if you were using it as conflict, well, there isn't a huge amount of quotes here about conflict with the enemy, because actually the whole point of it is that there is no conflict with the enemy. The conflict's with the weather. So in a way, the weather in this poem serves as a key idea for both a power piece of analysis on it or a conflict. If you're actually analysing how conflict is presented as being with the weather and how dangerous the weather is. So all of my quotes that I've picked out there fit with both of those ideas. So you don't really need a huge amount more than that. You know, what else have we got? Well, we've got pale flakes with fingering stealth come feeling for our faces, what we call fricative alliteration here, the f sound, or we can also call it consonance, which is the repetition of a consonant sound. And Wilfred Owen, this poet, was actually very well known for his use of consonants. He really overused consonants, repetition of a consonant sound. So that, of course, helps to emphasize. All alliteration helps to emphasize because it's a form of repetition. repetition will always emphasize. And it makes the snow and rain and weather feel sinister, feel dangerous. It's feeling for their faces. It's almost like they can't protect themselves from the weather, no matter how much they wrap up. I'm sure we've all been on really cold days where it does almost feel like the cold wind is like biting your skin, and it almost feels like it goes through a scarf or whatever. That, I think, is what that line is about. And it's a good line. I just think the others that I picked out were going to do the job, and I think they're really good to analyse. All their eyes are ice is quite nice as a sort of hyperbole or metaphor for suffering. The fact that the men that are left out in no man's land are being frozen over, and then they're having to bury them, their picks and shovels in their shaking grasp. So really, what would I pick out here? Well, caesura and the half rhymes for form, but nothing happens for structure, along with the rhetorical question, what are we doing here? And then you've got all of that language that you can choose as well. As I've done in the last videos, at the bottom, if you want to pause it and read that summary that a student of mine has written at the bottom, it's a good summary. It's really clear and very short. Pause the video, give that a read. Ideas in the top left, you can see conflict, the ideas of dreaming, because he goes back into this dream, but not really choosing any quotes from that section. Power of nature, of course, and suffering. Pretty short one again, guys, to be honest, because it does the job. It does the job in a pretty simple way. And I think this is in my top 7 because the links to the key ideas from all the quotes and techniques are so clear and so strong. And that's what you want. That's what you want from these 7 poems. You want a really nice, clear, straightforward journey to the marks. So that is exposure. Those are my 6 or so techniques that I would pick out. If you're my student, thank you again for watching it. I really appreciate that, because I've definitely probably set it for you for homework. If you're not a student of mine, thank you for watching it as well. Leave a like if you did like it. Leave a comment if you've got any questions. If you're my student, I will see you in the next lesson. Let me know that you watched it. Let me know what you thought. And thanks so much, guys. And I will see you in the next one.